Welcome to the Genre Deep Dive Challenge. My patrons voted on the theme for this quarter, and the idea is to read as many books as I can from a selected genre that I've been neglecting. I've chosen sci-fi, and my goal is to read 7 books this quarter, which is about 2 books a month, about a third of my reading. During the last video of this challenge series, I chose randomly a book from a bucket, and the winner was Cage of Souls by Adrian Tchaikovsky. If you've followed me for any length of time, you know that I've been gradually working my way through all of Adrian Tchaikovsky's works, probably at the same rate at which he's publishing them. He's got like 6 books coming out this year. Most have been good, some have been exceptional, and a rare few have been duds. The most recent one that I read, City of Last Chances, not quite a dud, but still kind of underwhelming, and so I was a bit nervous going into Cage of Souls. This is a standalone novel, and where did it rank? Probably somewhere in the upper half. Like, not the most amazing one I've read, but dang good. What I liked is this is a showcase of the things that Adrian Tchaikovsky does very well. Discovering there are some common themes in a lot of his works. For example, many of his stories take place after we as humanity have wrecked the planet, whether it be our planet or a different one. It's incredibly nature-focused, so a ton of flora and fauna, usually with a focus on bugs, but not always. And like, as you can see by the cover, this one was like primed with that kind of creative world building. And most of his books contain some sort of societal experimentation. So we've wrecked the planet, we have a new societal structure, what happens now? Really interesting stuff. With a cover that's as vague as this, I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into. I had heard that it was more of a science fiction than a fantasy, which I kind of agree with because it doesn't really have any fantasy elements. Just a lot of technological advancements. It's like set in the future. But even so, there are some things about this book that read and were paced like a fantasy novel. I imagine if you're a fantasy reader, this might be a great crossover into science fiction. And I loved the flora and fauna. World building for me in books goes the furthest. I value it more highly than almost anything else because I read to escape reality. Not that reality is bad, but I love the endless exploration of different places, and I love it when an author can make it so rich and vibrant that I feel like I'm there. That's what we got in here. The setting was almost defined enough to be a character within itself in the book. I really liked the main character. I did this one on audio, and I thought the narrator did an exceptional job at kind of giving me personality through him. And I liked all the side characters. I thought it was a really fun thing. This is a chronicling story, which also adds a little bit of personality. For the most part, I found the plot engaging. I was interested in page turning. I wanted to know what was really going on. Those are all the positives. A couple of negatives, some things that threw me off just a bit. On the back of the book, there are some quotes. You know how authors get cover quotes, whatever. I just glanced at them to see like, oh, who's promoting his book? Yeah, there are massive spoilers for what's going on in this story on the back of this hardcover book. To the point where 75% through the book, we've actually not even discussed the spoilery things on the back of the book at that point. And I'm like, I felt like it wrecked my reading experience. Like, who does that? Now, this hardcover is kind of a special edition. I have no idea who originally published it, but I found it secondhand online at a pretty penny. I don't think the paperback version, like the trade paper that you can get, has the spoilerish elements. But just in case it does, like, don't read it. Like, it's the dumbest thing. Don't spoil the book on the back of it. It's not that hard. But barring that publishing decision, the only other thing I didn't like is that the story kind of got weird near the end. Like, it got really weird. The whole thing is weird, but it got especially weird and felt almost too tangential from what we were dealing with in the main narrative. And I don't know, I liked it, but it almost added too many elements to the story for me. And then the culmination of everything, I felt like the ending of the book was not the right punchline. Like, it had a punch, but it wasn't what I was expecting based on what we had gotten that far. And so something about it landed just slightly off for me. I may be unfairly comparing this one to other Tchaikovsky works that have just absolutely blown my mind because it had such a slam dunk of an ending. So take that with a grain of salt. Had I not read Children of Time as one example, or Guns of Dawn, maybe I would be rating this one a little more highly. But I know he can dazzle me, so I'm kind of expecting that with every book that I go into by him. Overall, I am landing at a 4 out of 5 stars for this book, and I'm really excited to continue my journey reading more from this author. It's become one of my all-time favorites. Now let's talk about other books you might like if you enjoyed Cage of Souls. First one that comes to mind, bar none, is Sixth of Dusk by Brandon Sanderson. The flora and fauna in that short story could have been pulled directly out of this one. It's so vibrant and rich and kind of the moody atmosphere, and I thought the plot was pretty similar. And so up until recently, I would say, hey, if you want like the equivalent of a full-length novel of Sixth of Dusk, go ahead and check out Tchaikovsky's book. But I hear tell that Sanderson is already working on something like that. But in any case, when I first read this novella, it dazzled me. I thought it was so cool. And me, like many other fans, have been clamoring for more set in that world because the idea was so cool. So that would be a great one to pick up. The next one is The Emperor's Blade by Brian Staveley. This is part of the Unhewn Throne trilogy. We've got a prequel book as well. I'd say with world building, pacing, and character, this series resonates heavily with me with what I read in Cage of Souls. And like I said, I love the world building component. And Unhewn Throne has these giant birds that people train and ride into battle, and it largely takes place in a jungle setting. So if you want something that has a similar mood and atmosphere, but with maybe a little bit more expansive character work, like more POVs, then this one would be a great pick. The first book is easily one of my all-time favorite reads. I can't recommend that one highly enough, even though apparently I might be in the minority with that. You'll have to let me know. And finally, Southern Fire, part of the Aldebrecht and Compass series by Juliet McKenna. This is a 4-book series from an author that I've been reading and loving for years. In fact, a lot of her works that I've read, I'm like, what's the difference between her and many of the other popular best-selling authors? And the answer is not a lot. Like, she's got incredibly quality stuff, and the world building, the similar setting, the type of conflicts, the character work, all of that was superb. And Southern Fire even had a little bit more sense of exploration and discovery than Cage of Souls did. So if you like Cage of Souls, definitely pick up Southern Fire. There's a sense of mystery in Cage of Souls where you're page turning to find out like what's really going on. Southern Fire has an equal kind of element of that, and I think you'll find it just as compelling. So with that, it's time to pick my next title for the challenge. I really don't have a lot of papers in here. I've kind of thinned it out to just books that would be continuing series for me or standalones. I think the ideas that I have for the next quarterly challenge will lend themselves better to random draw, but whatever, we're gonna go with it. So my next book will be Star Wars. You may remember from a past video, I said if Star Wars got picked again, I would also read Unexploded Remnants by Gallagher, just to keep the content fresh. It's a novella. I imagine the Star Wars book won't take me that long to read. So in my next challenge video, I will be giving an update on those 2 titles and then picking another book. Thanks so much for watching. My patrons are getting access to this video series a full quarter ahead of time, so if you're interested in joining, link to my Patreon is in the description. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you.